If you're not interested in the Barbie convention, what happens there, what it's like, all the stuff that goes on and what you get for your money, then this video is not for you. Although honestly, you probably scrolled away already, so I don't know. To be fair, I just woke up from a nap a little while ago. It is what it is. I have zero plans for this video. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to ramble, and if you want to hang out with me and ramble for a while and talk about Barbie, then let's go. I can't believe I just said let's go. That's the straightest thing I've... The National Barbie Doll Collectors Convention happens once a year, and it's in a different city, hosted by a different club every year. As you can see, I'm in my doll room, and I did not lock my cats out because they would just be crying the whole time. So this is going to happen, 10 more times. Convention is fan run, and it is hosted by a different Barbie club or group of collectors every year. That does vary year to year. There is an overarching, not that anybody cares about this stuff, but there is an overarching organization called the National Barbie Collectors Convention Steering Committee, which is supposed to act as the guide for the different clubs year to year to year, so that there's some form of consistency, which in theory is a very good thing. In practice, I don't know. The convention is not run by Mattel. It is licensed by Mattel to the individual clubs each year. Mattel is very involved. They are very supportive, which is all amazing. They do give gifts. They do a lot of great stuff for the collecting community. But the convention is not run or overall sponsored by those clubs. Typically how it works is a club or informal group of friends, or sometimes even an individual, will say, hey, you know what? I've been to convention before. It seems doable for me. I think I have a great idea and I want to put one on. So that person, club, group, whatever, they will put together what's called a bid. And then typically at the national convention, they will go to the steering committee meetings, which happen every year, and present the members with the bid and say, hey, look, I want to do this convention in New York City, and this is the theme that I want to do, and this is my rough plan and my budget, etc. And what do you think? The steering committee will then vote yay or nay. Previous years, there used to be a lot of competition. There were sometimes even 3 or 4 bids competing for the upcoming year, because it was very sort of prestigious to be able to host it. I actually have been one of the main chairs for 2 different conventions, both of which got canceled because of COVID. Thank you very much. That's a dubious record at best. For me personally, I just wanted to do something for my community of collectors, and I thought I had a really good idea. I thought I could do something fun and different and interesting, and I really wanted to give back to my friends and my family that's out there in the Barbie world. Does everyone do it for altruistic reasons? Yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. If this is your first Barbie convention coming up and you want to know what to sort of expect, let's just go through the basics of what the week looks like. To be clear, the official dates typically run Wednesday through Saturday. So on the official schedule on Wednesday, things kick off with an opening reception, which is typically a sort of walk around. They always do silent auction with that too. So you walk around, you look at the silent auction items, you say hi to all your friends that you haven't seen for a year, because people come from all over the world. They really do. People come from Italy and Japan and the UK, from South America, from Mexico, from Canada, from all over the United States. So pretty much, obviously not every country, but every part of the world is definitely represented. So you have the silent auction. They have sort of a light hors d'oeuvres, light meals, like typically things, think sliders and maybe some skewers or something like that. I'm sighing because there is limited seating, because it's supposed to be like walk around, see your friends, like a cocktail reception sort of. Yeah, there's always a cash bar. And I'm sort of sighing because the sort of, oh my goodness, the sort of joke or the trope is that, people fight over those seats, because there's 850 people on a typical year, let's say. And for some reason, people fight to get seats because they want to sit down, whatever. But it's not supposed to be a seated event. And even those people that fight for those seats or will save, you can walk around and there are people like, I'm sorry, this whole table of 10 is saved. You can't sit here. I have 10 very close friends coming. I've seen people literally just ignore that and sit down anyway. But I think most people are respectful. The funny thing is that you typically don't see those tables sitting there full for the whole night, except for some of the unhappy people who just like, I got a seat, I'm never giving it up. Um, those may or may not be boomer Karens, but you know, you got to prepare yourself for that if you want to come to Barbie Convention. And some people, yes, will sit there, cut off their nose to spite their face, as they say, because they're not giving up that seat for anything, even though they don't want to be there either. I don't get it. Thursday, there's a luncheon, which is almost always sponsored by Mattel. Everybody goes into a ballroom, you eat lunch together, there's a presentation on stage, general welcomes, things like that. Mattel will usually gift a doll. The convention will usually give some kind of gift. That varies from year to year. It's not typically a doll. It's usually a doll accessory or something you use with your doll. I can't even tell you what it was offhand. Sometimes it's a fashion, sometimes it's a piece of furniture, sometimes it is a doll. Mattel will typically take the stage and do a sort of Q&A with their designers, which people grouse about a lot, but it is interesting to hear because they will sometimes give you little sneak peeks to what's coming up in the year. Although they're more and more tight-lipped about that, and I do not blame them. We've all seen a million leaks on these apps and social media, and I think it's a bummer. I think it's a bummer. Look, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. Don't do it. Did I used to share all that stuff? Of course I did. But then, I talked to Carlo one day and he really put it in perspective for me. Just imagine working hard on something for 18 months and being so excited to share it with everyone. And then it's announced by somebody else with a bad shot of a grainy photograph from, the factory where the doll really doesn't come across in its best light. And that's the first impression that everybody gets, and you don't get to do that again. It's like announcing somebody else's engagement or somebody else's pregnancy news. It's just ick. It's just cringe. Like, don't do it. I know it's hard. I know you want to do it. I know we all want to know, but patience is better. Okay, I'll stop. Friday, there's typically a dinner, which is sponsored by someone else. Again, you get gifts, you eat dinner, and there is usually some kind of presentation or awards or those sorts of things. They either happen Friday night or Saturday night. One of those big ones is, of course, Barbie's Best Friend Award. This has been given by Carol Spencer for many decades. Carol, if you're not familiar with her, was a designer at Mattel for more than 35 years. She designed so many iconic dolls like Totally Hair Barbie. She really is an amazing person and an amazing designer. And I have to say that because I got the Barbie's Best Friend Award one year. I did. Mine was awarded to me in recognition of my work on 2020 in the middle of the pandemic when things went south and we really had to pivot fast and, take care of the collecting community when we all couldn't be together. We were able to get all of our friends together with a lot of help and ship out more than 1,200 packages to people all around the world. And that was such a massive undertaking. Like, you all have no idea. So it was nice to be acknowledged for that. People get it for different reasons, but usually it's because you're very active and supportive and a positive force in your community. There's anywhere from 1 to 5 recipients here. It really just depends. These days, and I mean this in the best way possible, I think Carol is 93 now, 92 or 93. So she's typically giving, multiple awards each year at convention, which is a good thing because I think there's a lot of people out there that deserve to be recognized for what they've brought to the Barbie community. Then on Saturday, there's sort of a finale banquet night where we all just sort of, celebrate, say goodbye. And Mattel, that's when they surprise us with their gift of an official convention doll. Oh God, we're going to talk about this, aren't we? So the convention doll is a complete surprise for most of us. Mattel typically themes it around the theme of the convention, if at all possible. But sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It really just depends on what's going on. These dolls do tend to be a little more out there, I think. For me personally, that's an amazing thing. I'm all about it. I understand when you're making a product, which in the end Barbie is, look, I'm soapboxing again. When you're making a product, you have to make it appeal to the broadest number of people while also feeling special. And that's not always easy to do, especially in this community, okay? Not the gay community, the Barbie community. It's kind of the same thing, right? Are there years where we get very traditional dolls? Yes. I almost fell asleep telling you that. Are the years where we get very out there dolls? Also, yes. And I think that's a really good thing because these are the dolls that you won't typically see in the main line. Like we get dolls that are sometimes so out there or so not obscure, but very sort of specific to the theme or specific in taste, that we'd never get them otherwise. So the fact that we do get them at convention and they're typically less than 1,000 pieces made, I think that's pretty special and that's pretty amazing and that's pretty awesome. Here's the thing about that. People always have very, very high expectations of the convention doll, but rarely do they skyrocket in price or demand or are in super, you know, high regard, so to speak. I don't know why we all have these big expectations on it, like it's supposed to be the end all and be all of all dolls. In that moment on Saturday night when you're opening it, it usually is. I gotta be honest, it's super fun. But there is no doll out there that everybody's gonna love. For sure, there have been years where there are dolls that I know collectors who absolutely adore them and it's their favorite doll ever. 2012 comes to mind. Maybe it was 2014, maybe. Those were very traditional dolls, which are pretty and everything, but nothing special. Give me a Golden Galaxy or La Reine de Nuit or whoever any day, and I will definitely take that. I may not be the best gauge for that because typically if the majority of the community hates a doll, then I love it because that's just how I'm built. So wait, we're just getting started. Yes, there's a Wednesday reception, Thursday lunch, and then dinner. That's not the rule, but that's the typical formula that most conventions solve. You could have a dinner every night if you wanted. You just have to have the budget for it. You could have a lunch every day or whatever. The year that I was going to do it, I was planning on having brunch because it's Palm Springs, and why would you not have brunch? So those are sort of the main events, but there is a ton of stuff going on during that time. There are programs and presentations where you can go and watch somebody speak about Midge or Alan or the Shawnee line or Monster High. No, that's a lie. Monster High is a different property. It's a different department at Mattel. It doesn't intermingle with Barbie per se. So that was a really bad example. There are also workshops where people teach you how to make miniatures or photograph your dolls or do a diorama. There is a competition room where it has competition is interesting. It has a couple different aspects. Think of it like when you go to the state fair and you see like, Best Pie and furniture and most amazing cow or whatever, depending on your state, what state fair you're in. People go to competition and they have categories for vintage dolls, and people get first, second place, honorable mention sort of things for certain categories. And the categories can be anything. They can be vintage from the 60s, they can be 80s, they can be 90s, it can include all of them. There's typically one that's a little more artsy. In the past, I've seen fabric arts, we've had photographs, I've even seen sculptures. There's also usually a sort of diorama category where people will make a scene. One really fun one is somebody had basically made an old school 60s TV and had done the Beatles in it and had set up the diorama like that, kind of like you're watching TV. One year somebody had a pirate ship that was about this big and it rocked and it had Kelly and Tommy all dressed as pirates just hanging all over it. You can guess what era that was from, what movies were big at that time. And there's a category for one-of-a-kind dolls. So all these people that you see making over dolls on the apps could, enter that, their favorite one-of-a-kind that they've made. No, there's no prerequisites, no skill level, but usually the people that enter those sort of categories are pretty highly skilled, and there is a lot of competition, and a lot of people want their ribbons. On the year that we were doing it, I was trying to do something different. It was very controversial. Some people loved it. Some people absolutely hated it. But I personally do not like the competition aspect. I just wanted to have an exhibition, a place for everyone to share their love of Barbie, their favorite vintage pieces, so that you can share those with people, they can see them, share your art, share your work, all that sort of stuff. But we had that meeting in steering committee and I literally had a collector stand up and say, I want my $2 ribbon. She's like, I worked hard, I don't care if it's a $2 ribbon, I want my $2 ribbon that says first place. And that's fine. Did she sway me? No, she didn't, because there wasn't an overall sentiment for that particular aspect, but I get why she likes it. And you know what? There were 40 conventions before that and 40 conventions after that that will all award ribbons, so you'll get your chance for it. This one, I wanted to try something a little bit different and have an exhibition where the goal was not to compete, but was just to share with your fellow collectors the love of Barbie. I think had we done it, it would have been fine. I don't think anybody really would have missed out. I think we would have had a lot of it. So I got to give a little backstory on this. My first convention was 2006, which was in Century City, which is basically here in LA. I said here in LA. I don't live in LA anymore. I live out in the Palm Springs area. But I lived in LA for many years. So it was in LA. It was 2006. I entered, that was my first competition. That was my first convention. I entered my first competition. I put in an extremely rare vintage doll. And by extremely rare, I mean, I have the only known example to have survived. Okay. The one example anywhere in the world that anyone has of this doll, I have. And it is a official Mattel doll, yes. I entered it, and I don't remember if she got second place or honorable mention or something, but just the judges' comments being like, meh, it's mid, whatever. I wanted to be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I know that's coming off as like, do you know who I am energy? But I'm just like, you all have never even seen this before, and you're like poo-pooing all over it. Like at that, honestly, that just turned me off from competition for me personally. But you know, I'm not a super competitive person anyway. Like I don't need a $2 ribbon to validate me. If you do, good for you. You hear that? Yeah, that's my cat. One of many. And I honestly have spoken to a lot of people that have their own version of bad experiences and honestly all but horror stories about competition and the comments that some of those judges get that are very rude. And I didn't enjoy that aspect, and I wanted to try a year without it. I said, you know what, look, let's do this. If it's terrible and people hate it, it's fine, because the next year they're gonna go right back to competition anyway. But trying to affect any kind of change in this aspect of the Barbie collecting community is like pulling teeth, is like hurting cats, is like bashing your head against the wall. Trust me, I've done it, I've tried. So the funny thing is, when you do this, if you're one of the main chairs of convention, which I was, I hosted it with two other people. The three of us split the work so that it was more doable. There are people that definitely are control freaks and like, I want to control every aspect. For us, I was like, there were three of us. I'm like, we can split this up in different ways and I think do a better job. You cannot go on my shoulder. He's just dying to get on my shoulder. I know you're I know it seems like I'm being mean to him, but I typically don't share a lot of personal stuff unrelated to Barbie on this app, but I did have surgery last week, and I'm not supposed to lift more than 10 pounds for like a week, and he's about 10 pounds, and he's the most needy. He's over here on the ground, rolling around, like trying to be cute, going, you know you want to pick me up. Yes, I want to pick you up. Of course I do. You're my little my Draxy Drax kitty cat boo boo, but I can't pick you up right now. Technically, I probably could because it's been about a week, but I'm gonna wait a couple more days. Trust me when I say this is the neediest cat that I've ever had, pretty much ever in my everness. So because the convention licensed out Barbie's name, likeness, etc., Mattel does keep a very close eye on it, even though they are not running things. They don't make the calls. They just basically try and sign off of it and make sure that you're representing the brand appropriately, which I think, of course, makes sense, right? But beyond gifting the dolls and other things to conventioneers, they typically will gift you supplies for things like centerpieces, because at each of those meal events that we talked about, you sit at a table of 10 and you sit with that same 10 people every time, and each table has a centerpiece. You know, like when you go to a wedding or another event like that, and they typically have a floral centerpiece or something. Well, you know, at Barbie Convention, they're dolls. They can be anything you want. I've gone to club meetings where we have had florals and things like that. But typically, it's some kind of doll that they've customized slightly or done something to. So Mattel will gift you with those things. So I had this long list of when we were going to be like, what are our asks for Mattel? What do we need? Like, okay, You have 85 tables, so typically you'll make 100 of any given centerpiece just to make sure that you're okay. And that you have enough and nobody gets shorted, because stuff happens. So let's say for, whatever night you want to have 100 blonde Barbies in a ball gown. Now, Mattel typically won't give you the ball gown, but they will definitely give you the doll. You could say, could I have 100 holiday Barbies or whatever? Or you just say, I should be more clear. You would go to Mattel and say, look, could I have 100 blonde-haired Barbies in Curvy or Model Muse or Made to Move or whatever you want, and they are usually pretty accommodating. Most years, people will ask for 3 different dolls, and you'll have a different doll as a centerpiece each night, and they may build something around that. It might be standalone, it might just have a sort of display or presentation, whatever it may be. My year, I asked for the moon. My partner who was doing it with me, who had previously ran a convention in 2018, said, "You're crazy, you can't ask for this. This is way more, way too much," because I think I was asking for like 2 dolls for each night, as well as like 250 extra Silkstone dolls. I was asking for shoes. I was asking for all kinds of stuff. And he said, "You can't do this." And I said, "Look, all they can do is say no, right? The worst they can do is say no, and we'll go from there. We'll figure it out." But to the great credit of Mattel, I'm very happy to say they did not say no. They were very happy to accommodate us, and that would have made for some amazing it did make for some amazing centerpieces for people. Like, typically, they're not very selective. I think at some point they did offer us the holiday doll, and I straight up went back and asked them. I said, "Look, I know this is their most popular doll." It's not exactly what I said to them, but the holiday doll is their best-selling doll of all year. I was like, "Look, can I get a collector doll?" I said, "Just give me." At the time, there was a series called Mythical Muse, if you all remember that, with like the unicorn and dragon and mermaid, and they said, "Well, we can't tell you what that doll is going to look like for next year, and that doll won't get manufactured until like March." And I said, "I don't care. I just send it to me," because typically they give you the new doll. I'm like, "I don't care what she looks like. I don't care what hair color she is. Just just send me that doll. I want that. I want a like holiday doll as my thing." And that year it turned out to be the dragon doll, but I had worked with another artist to design a caftan. So, the dragon Barbie, she has these really long, beautiful, like pastel green hair. She was gorgeous, and it worked perfectly with a sort of white textured caftan. And fit perfectly in our theme. Besides the meal events, programs, presentations, workshops, competition room, there's also a raffle room, there's also a sales room, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's even a late night lounge where you can go and, wobble with your friends or whatever you want to do. The age does skew older at convention. If you're one of those people that's sort of trepidatious about like, I'm interested, but I'm not sure what to do, I got nothing for you. You just got to dive in. It's like anything in life. Yeah, it's scary at first. You don't know what to expect, but you just got to jump in and have fun. I will say in general, the community there is fairly welcoming to newcomers. They do like to see new blood. Has that changed the last few years? I'm kind of hearing that it has, because they're with, social media. Of course, it's always been around, but it's just on a different level the last 5 years. Maybe it's because of after the pandemic. But I have heard from 1 or 2 of my collector friends who are on the younger side on social media be like, "Yeah, it's a bunch of these Karens and they're not necessarily welcome." But you know what? It's going to be like that wherever you go. If you go to Comic-Con, do you think every single person there is friendly and super nice? No, a lot of people are, but it's the public. But not going to lie, I mean, it is sort of a boomer Karen at its core, as sad as that makes me to say. But there's a reason for that, because it does cost a lot of money to go to Barbie Convention, because it is not built out like every other convention out there, which is just a thing that I can't let go of. There is absolutely a way to make it more accessible, more affordable for a greater portion of the population, no matter what your age or demographic is, because there are absolutely people who are 25 years old that dropping 10 grand to go to Barbie Convention for a week is nothing. They do that when they go to Ibiza. And there's people at 60 years old that can do that no problem. There's everyone in between. But I could not have gone to Barbie Convention in my 20s easily, at least. Besides all the official events, on Tuesday there are usually artist parties, and there's something called room shopping, which typically starts as early as the Friday before and goes until Wednesday night. Those are sort of unofficial events, but it is a big part of the Barbie convention experience. Room shopping can be a lot of fun. It's basically like a swap meet or a flea market inside a hotel where people prop open their doors, decorate everything, set up all their for sale stuff in the room. You can go into their room and shop. Does that mean that rooms are open at random times? Like you can go at 2 in the afternoon and there's a ton of people open. You can go at 2 in the morning, there's a ton of people open. You can go at 2 in the afternoon and there's nobody open. You can go at 2 a.m. and there's nobody open. It's just hit or miss because it is unofficial and there's no official hours. It's sort of, like, yeah, have I done it before? Yes. Like you want to go to dinner with your friends. Okay, you just close your room door and you move on with your life. But you have time. Okay, let me go open up my door. Some people are hardcore and they will stay open as long and as much as they can. But typically it's sort of hit or miss. But generally speaking, I would say, evenings and nights especially, most people are open. Does that mean sometime you'll wander into somebody's room and their husband or kid is passed out on one of the double beds asleep while everyone is room shopping around them? Yes, it does. The artist parties on Tuesday are for the big one-of-a-kind artists like Magia 2000 with Gianni and Mario. They will typically make a whole collection of one-of-a-kind dolls that are amazing and beautiful and could range anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. And they have a whole process for how they choose how to sell those, but they will usually have a party to debut it and everybody goes, looks at the dolls, and then you have the opportunity to buy them. And there are multiple artists who do that. And that is part of the fun as well. Even if you just want to go and look, of course, not everybody's going to spend, look. When I started collecting, I could not imagine spending $50 on a doll. That was just unfathomable to me. I'm like, I don't know. Like, yes, I'm in this crazy Barbie community, and yes, I buy dolls, but $50 for a doll, never in a million years. But of course, that didn't last long. And for the first 10 or 15 years of my collecting career, would I ever spend $1,000 on a one-of-a-kind doll? I'm like, no, why would I do that? I could buy a really nice piece of vintage from the 60s for that same amount of money, and that's where I spent my stupid money. I never in a million years would I ever think to buy a doll. But then in 2013, I saw a doll that I just had to have. I gave them cash and then split the rest on 2 different credit cards, which they were fine with. But I got the doll because I absolutely loved her and thought she was amazing and beautiful. And she still is absolutely an amazing and beautiful. Fast forward a few years later, did I spend $7,000 on a doll? Yes, I did. There's a whole playlist about that. So yeah, you never know. And if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, then you know my favorite saying, I am not independently wealthy. I do not make 6 figures. In fact, I haven't even worked for the last year and a half. I've just been living off my savings very, very frugally, and with a very generous partner who's been supportive of me. But I'm not independently wealthy. I'm fiscally irresponsible. Huge difference. Wait, what were we talking? Where were we going with this? Oh, what it costs. So I will tell you that typically my partner and I will go to whatever city convention is in, and we usually will fly out on Saturday or Sunday at the absolute latest, and stay through usually the Monday following convention, because Sunday is such a madhouse of people getting out of there, saying goodbye, like everybody's trying to get home. And I did that for many years, and eventually we realized we could just stay one more day. We could have a nice, like, chill, relaxed Sunday to sort of decompress and unwind with our friends one last time, and then go home on Monday. And that just worked a million times better for us. Does that mean you typically have a hotel bill that's like $2 or $3 grand? Yes. Does that mean that you have to fly 2 people to Kansas City or Houston or DC or Phoenix or Orlando or wherever? Yes. There's another grand right there. Do you have to eat all your meals out? Yeah, you do. Okay, I eat it. Because I actually do know people that will just like eat peanut butter and jelly the whole week. They go to Target when they get there in the beginning. They buy a big jar of peanut butter and jelly, and that's what they eat every day, so that they spend, instead of spending their money on food, they'd rather spend the budget that they have on Barbie. Personally, I love to eat. I love food. This channel should not be about Barbie. This should all be about food and cats. That's really, as you can tell. So when we travel, we do like to explore and go to restaurants and stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be fancy, but when you are eating 1 or 2 meals out every day for 10 days, it adds up fast. The other big expense is shopping. Whether you're room shopping, you're in the sales room, whatever. You have to budget. Look, here's my best advice for you if this is your first convention coming up and you're going. Bring double the money that you think you're going to need. Find it somewhere. Save now, scrimp, sell something you've been thinking about selling. Just do whatever you can to get that money, because typically a lot of the stuff you only see once. So when you're room shopping, you're going to room and you're bouncing around and everything just kind of becomes a blur, because these are usually multiple floors in the hotel, multiple different rooms. Buy it when you see it. Honestly, that is my number one piece of advice. Bring more money than you think you need, and buy it when you see it. When you go and you're looking at, oh, that's a really beautiful doll, I love her, and that price is decent, I'm gonna think about it. You're either one, you're gonna come back and it's gonna be gone, or you're not gonna be able to find that room again. I don't make the rules. This is just the way it is. And look, you don't have to take my word for it. You can learn it the hard way, like we all did. But I promise you, talk to anybody that's been to convention a few times, and they'll tell you stories about, oh my God, I saw the most of them. I can't believe I didn't buy it when I saw it. What was I thinking? What did I do? Buy it when you see it. Good advice for life in general. And of course, if you're in a city that you haven't been before, there might be additional touristy things that you want to do. And there are expenses that come with that too. So I've been to convention in Arlington, which is right next to DC. So, a lot of the stuff there is free to see, but not everything. It does cost to get into museums, and it does cost transportation, whether you're Ubering or you rent a car or you're taking the train. It still costs something. Or you bum a ride from your friend. That's the best way to do it. This year it's in the Palm Springs area. Is this touristy? Yes, but Palm Springs vibe really is more sit by the pool and hang out. It's not, go all over the place. But there are some amazing things to do while you're here. I highly recommend the Jeep tour. Even if it does, because look, we got it comped. Even if it doesn't sound like a thing that you want, I really do think it's worth it. And I was not on board with that in the beginning, okay? We came out prior to our convention, which was supposed to be here in 2020. We came out in 2019 to do a site visit, talk to the hotel, run through everything. And as part of that, the local Visitors Bureau, were kind enough to gift us with a Jeep tour of the desert, which I had zero desire to do, zero desire to get up at 6:30 in the morning. I was like, yeah, I know what sand and palm trees look like. I'm from the desert, from Southern California. But I went and I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun, and I really did enjoy it. Is it super expensive? No. Is it cheap? Definitely not. Even if you want to ride the tram or take a day trip to San Diego or LA, you are out here. You're a couple hours away from Disneyland and California Adventure and Universal Studios and SeaWorld and Legoland. Those are all expenses that you have to think about and plan for. I don't think eating out here isn't super expensive, but it definitely isn't cheap. It definitely is cheaper in other parts of the country. This is still Southern California, and it is primarily a tourist town, so the prices sort of reflect that too. Not that you have to eat in a fancy restaurant every night. There are definitely hole-in-the-wall places here, but those aren't. They're affordable and cheap by California standards. But if you're from Montana or Idaho or Wisconsin or something, then you probably will be a little bit shocked. So what else do people typically ask about with convention? I feel like I'm giving you the information, but it's sort of so all over the place, it's probably hard for you to keep up with me. But in the end, we'll sum it all up, and then, maybe that'll give you a better sense, and you can ask me more questions about things if you want. So yes, you do typically sit with the same 10 people at the same table at each of the 3 meal events. Three meal events plus a reception, which is not seated. If you don't have a table already, you can get randomly assigned to one. I might have some space at my table if you're looking for one. Some tables are strictly no gifts, and some tables are strictly gifts. Most fall somewhere in between. I would say most tables say gift if you like, you don't have to. And most people do gift because I think as a human being, it kind of sucks to go into this thing and, get gifts every single night and then never give anything to anyone else. Most people don't want to get caught like that. And most people who do, because it does happen, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. That's okay. The gifts are all over the place. People definitely, I've gotten pencils as a gift, and they weren't even Barbie pencils. It was just, I went to this one that was I went to a convention one year that was sponsored by the sponsor club were the Pink Pirates. So somebody gave me Pirates of the Caribbean pencils. That was her gift. She gave us each two Pirates of the Caribbean pencils. And I've been gifted amazing one of a kind dolls. It's everything in between. I tend to give nicer gifts. I like to give gifts. That's because I've been going to convention for so long. Our table is typically all friends. You know, we may not all 10 of us be like buddy buddy exactly, but we're all really good friends of somebody at that table, if that makes sense. You know, like, I don't know, typically there's 10 people. I'm sitting with, you know, 6 or 7 of those people are my best friends. And the 2 or 3 people that I'm friendly with but may not know as well, they are best friends with somebody else at the table. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm happy to spend more money. That's part of the fun. It's part of the creative process. It's like figuring out what you can do that feels special, that feels amazing, and that you really want to make a good impression on. But it's like any kind of gifting. You either are somebody that likes to give gifts or you're not. You can definitely request to sit at a non-gifting table if that's not your vibe at all. Absolutely, that happens. But most people will give, you know, 1 or 2 modest gifts during the week. You don't have to give one at every single meal, but, you know, give 1 or 2 modest ones. And by modest, I mean you're spending $10 to $20 per person. And I hear them now. People are saying $20 per person to 10 people, that's like $200 and $400. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but you're going to get, you know, 9 other people spending that on you as well. I'm telling you what's pretty typical. Do some people just give gummy bears or what? Yes, they do. Again, and some people give one of a kind dolls. How can you, you know, I have multiple one of a kind dolls that I've gotten from friends, especially when they're artist friends. It's really generous and really nice. And you know, I appreciate it. Is it worth a little bit? Yeah, it's worth some money, but that's not, it's because my friends took their time and effort to make this thing for all of us. That's what makes it special for me. And honestly, if you're going and you're planning on giving gifts, I will tell you that thought absolutely does, 1000% does count. Can you run out to Miniso and buy 10 things off the shelf there for $10 or less? Yes, you can, and people will be very grateful and thankful for that. They really will. But I think people appreciate it when you put in a little bit of effort. It doesn't necessarily have to be made by you. Some of us, our shopping power is only some of us, our superpower is only shopping, and we can't, you know, you don't want us to paint anything for you or try to reroute it all. No. But you know, you can go on to places like Sticker Mule or Vistaprint or Spoonflower or whatever and make something that's custom. You know, please don't give anyone a mug. None of us want mugs. But you just never know. I think a really good example of this was in 2020. Our convention was called, and maybe I should just tell you about that convention because maybe that'll give you more insight into the stuff I'm talking about than me just rambling. But so 2020, our theme was Forgotten Paradise. And basically, you know what I am going to talk about? Let's talk about it. 2020, our theme was Forgotten Paradise, and this was the setup. So you were, and I'm going to get back to the gifts in a second. The setup when you show up at Convention Hotel, you go to registration, and our registration was like you were getting on a cruise. That was going to be our gag, right? You go to registration, and everything was sort of cruise themed almost. You know, you're picking up your lanyard that has your name and everything on it, so your credentials, you can get into everything at convention. As well as a lot of gifts, because there are all the people that give things to the convention. You get them in a reg bag, and the reg bag itself is a nice little gift. That was getting on the cruise. And as part of that, as well as our teaser gift the year before, we found these little stress ball, not stress ball, it was a stress ball, but it was shaped like a life preserver, and it was perfectly Barbie sized. So they were basically life preservers that we had printed, like, you know, the SS Roberts, which is Barbie's last name, the SS Carson, which is Ken's last name, the SS Hadley, which is Midge's last name, and the SS Sherwood, which is Alan's last name. So we had these 4 different things. We gave them as a teaser gift to the convention the year before, and when we showed our video and announced where next year's convention was going to be. Because most people don't know unless you're in the steering committee, but a lot of people are in the steering committee. It's a very poorly held secret. But technically, the next year doesn't get announced until that year's convention. So I thought that was a really good and I didn't come up with it. One of the people we were working with did, as I recall. But I thought that was a good, you know, sort of creative use of what was out there. because then we could get those, for a buck each or whatever it was, and it wasn't too crazy, didn't break the bank, and they're sort of fun. So I think the teaser gift had the ship names and said, Las Vegas on the bottom, because that's where we were going. And then the one they were going to get in their registration bag said, the ship's name and welcome aboard. And they were random so that people could collect the different ones. If that was your thing and you were into it, you could go and try to get all four, or trade with your friends, or buy them online, or in the sales room, or room shopping, whatever made you happy. So we embark on our cruise from registration, and then at the first event, which was the reception, that had a sort of shipwreck theme, because our boat had gone down and we were now shipwrecked on this mysterious island. And I thought that was sort of fun. Like, our food, we were going to have skewers and sort of like tropical shipwreck things, right or wrong, culturally cringe or not, I don't know, but sometimes you just got to lean into it. We had this whole vague storyline for how that progressed through the week. So at our Thursday luncheon, I believe that was I'd have to go back and look. I think that's when we were exploring the island and we found a mystical cove. So it was a little more fantasy mystical, with mermaids and unicorns and that kind of stuff. Like, this is not a normal island kind of thing. And if you were paying attention before, that's the event where I think we were going to use our dragon, mythical muse, as the centerpiece, redressed into this sort of lounge resort wear caftan. She actually turned out really good. I was happy with her. That also may have been, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that was our theme for Friday, because I can't remember what Friday was. But by Saturday, we were still on the island and we were getting rescued that night. So this was going to be in Vegas. It was going to be at the Mirage Hotel at the time. Oh, the most exciting thing for me was we were planning on having the reception at the Lion and Dolphin Habitat. So the Mirage Hotel and Casino, which is now closed, at that time, or for many years, they do have a dolphin habitat. I know. But I think they were in the process of breaking it down and trying to do something positive with it. They also had, that's where Siegfried and Roy were. That's where Siegfried and Roy were for many years. So they did have a big lion habitat there, with all the big cats, with all the different big cats. And our reception, instead of being in the typical ballroom where we had it 40 years before, we were going to have it outside where you could walk around and, experience the big cats and the dolphins and things like that, which I thought was going to be amazing. That was going to be the highlight of the convention for me, for sure, 100%. Now, of course, all those animals have been rehomed, so that's a good thing. But yeah, when you're giving gifts, you don't necessarily have to make something from scratch. You can just do something really creative. And there's a lot of things out there. You can customize glasses, you can customize fanny packs, t-shirts, and you can customize dolls. I often have redressed dolls. I think actually in Vegas, because I was a convention sponsor and it was a big deal for us, I wanted to do something nicer for my friends. So at that time, I think the Star Wars dolls had been out for a year or so. So I had bought everyone their favorite Star Wars doll, because a lot of people like different faces. Like, I had a friend that loved the mermaid sculpt, or the Louboutin sculpt. I forget which one did Darth Vader have. She had Louboutin, right? The Louboutin sculpt. So I had bought those dolls for $100 each, yes, because they've never been on sale ever. And I was redressing them. I had some custom fashions made by an amazing, one-of-a-kind artist. He made me some amazing fashions that were very Vegas, sort of sparkly and glittery, and this like really cool. I should show those to you guys. They're really pretty. I still have them because the convention got canceled. I did give them to my close friends, but I didn't give all 10 away, so I still have a bunch. But like, I have a friend that is totally into the Carl face sculpt, which R2-D2 had. So I bought that doll and was just going to redress her. Did I repaint her? No. Did I reroute her? No. But it's fun to get a high-end expensive doll that you feel like you can play with and you can redress and do different things too. There is typically a raffle room. Mattel does donate items there, but they're mostly donated by people they're mostly donated by people, collectors in the community, and the proceeds from those raffle ticket sales go to support convention, because convention is very expensive. The cost is typically around $500 these days, but that does get you 3 meals and a reception, all the gifts, and then all the activities that happen for the official Wednesday through Saturday convention days. It's really not that bad. But what I think people don't understand is that the majority of that money does go to the hotel food. It doesn't go towards gifts or decor or any of that other kind of stuff. It goes towards the hotel bill. And hotel food is if you've had a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a quince, then you know how expensive that stuff is, and the hotel food adds up super fast. This is the biggest part of the budget by far, absolutely by far, absolutely 100%. So if you think about it, $500 times 850 people is like $425,000, and a convention typically has a budget of $600,000 or $700,000. That other $200,000 or $300,000 is made up by sponsors and raffle ticket sales and all kinds of other stuff. So it's not something anybody really needs to know or care about. None of us likes to know how the sausage gets made, but it is there. I don't even know where we were. I just had to stop for a minute. But TLDR, room shopping starts as early as Friday, but most room shopping, I would say, is probably Sunday, Monday. It does happen Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And then all the room stopping shops, because the official sales room opens the Thursday morning of convention, or Thursday afternoon after the luncheon typically. Wednesday's the official kickoff with the opening reception and silent auction. Thursday luncheon sponsored by Mattel. Friday dinner, and Saturday dinner with the big doll reveal. Oh, there's also a fashion show in there. That has never been my thing personally, but it is super fun, and I think I've only ever not gone. No, I think I've gone every single time. The fashion show people basically make life-size versions of Barbie fashions and then walk the runway. Most years it's fine, some years it's been really bad. Not the people in it, but the way that they presented it with skits or whatever, it was bad. Oh, I've got video. It's bad. But as long as they stick to the regular, as long as they stick to a traditional fashion show, it's actually pretty fun to go see people's creative things that they do. There's one woman who crochets a Barbie outfit every single year, like a full life-size crocheted Barbie fashion. It's amazing. And the last several years, Mattel has jumped in and they've done a lot of stuff too. So it's always fun. Oh, typically you can also sign up to be a VIP. That does cost extra money, and the usual perk is like reserve seating at reserve seating at the fashion show, early entrance to maybe sales room, some other things like that. It's a nice way to support the convention. You get a few perks, but I wouldn't expect a ton from it. So here's the big question. You decided you're interested and you want to go. The upcoming years have not been officially announced, although if you are in a club that's part of the steering committee, or you know somebody, then they could tell you that they might be in, for example, no, I'm not going to say it. I'd be a big hypocrite if I came in here and I talked about sharing sneaks and spoilers and stuff, and then I just did it. DM me. But the last night of this convention next year's will be announced, and the last night of that convention the year after that will be announced, etc., etc., etc. But if you're interested in going and you think you want to go, they typically go on sale in September or October. It's all done online now, which is a good thing. Yeah, you're welcome. I was part of the team that really pushed for that hard back in 2017. That was like pulling teeth. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, I even had a QR code set up because I thought this will be easy. QR codes in 2017? No, not like they are now. But if you really, really, really want to go, I actually think it's pretty easy to get in. It's just like any other drop for Barbie or Monster High or whatever. If you're there early and you're trying, you're probably going to get in. The issue is that most people hem and haw, and they're like, I don't know if I want to go, I can't decide, blah, blah, blah. So they wait, and by the time they wait, it's too late and the wait list is full. This year, I got waitlisted because I was literally getting on a plane when everything went on sale at 9 a.m. or whatever it was, so I had to wait till I got to my seat to do it. Also, I kind of sort of forgot because I was just tied up with getting on board the plane. But I did get off last week, so that's good. Off the wait list, off the wait list, off the wait list. But I promise you, if you know what the city is next year and you think, I've never been there, I want to visit that, or I don't care where it's going, I just want to go to convention one year, you can do it on a budget and you can get on. You just have to be there right when it goes on sale and sign up right away. And it's highly likely that you'll get in. Even if you get waitlisted, if you're on the wait list early, you'll almost certainly get off pretty quickly because you know what? Life happens. People cancel for all sorts of reasons. They get sick, they have deaths in the family, their vacation plans change, somebody gets married that week, whatever. Or they just decide they don't want to go or can't afford it. It happens. You get off the wait list pretty fast. Now this year, because it's on the West Coast, basically in Palm Desert, which is in the Palm Springs area, there is a higher demand because it typically does not come to the West Coast. Between the higher demand of just being on the West Coast and the hype surrounding the Barbie movie last year, the wait list has not moved much at all. True. People are totally into Barbie now. It's a good thing. But I am glad that so many younger collectors have been getting into convention and going and experiencing it the last few years since the pandemic. That's a really, really good thing because it definitely is an old school institution and definitely needs fresh blood. If you are one of those young, and by younger, I mean millennial, Gen X, Gen Z, not Gen X. Actually, yeah, Gen X. Wow, that really sucks to say. I would say easily the majority are boomers. Yeah. Again, because it's a very expensive convention to attend. Now, is there a way where you can do it where you can accommodate those people that want to come for the week and get a doll and still allow entrance to the convention every single day for people that just want to like get a taste or maybe don't want to spend a full week at convention or don't want to spend 10 grand, but can maybe swing a few $100 or drive to wherever for the day to attend and then drive home and not blow the hotel money. Yes, there's a way to do that. Are most of these people gatekeeping and want to do that for the community? No, they don't. Look, the Barbie convention community is nothing if not drama. I haven't even talked about that. You all have no idea. There's a reason why I love it so much here on this app on TikTok instead of I would say for me the majority of my Barbie community, at least because I am Gen X, is typically on Facebook, and it's just one of those things. There are certain communities or aspects that really live off Facebook. Although I'm happy to say that that's really changed a lot over the last few years, and that's a really, really good thing. So if you are one of those younger collectors, good for you. I'm glad you're doing it, and I highly encourage you to run a convention if you can do the work. It's an ungodly amount of work. I mean, you might as well just take on 4 more full-time jobs because it will run your life 24/7. Not the whole time, of course. You got to do a lot of planning and stuff, but the last 6 months at least, yeah, it's all I spent my free time on. I didn't have any free time. I would never be making TikToks. I would just, I like, and I know that might sound like an exaggeration, but really it's not. And that was with 3 of us splitting the work, plus all of our sort of. So you have the main convention chairs, which were the 3 people I was doing it with, and then you have all the different convention chairs. Like you'll have a chair for the raffle room and a chair for competition or exhibition. You have a chair for workshops. You have a chair for programs. Sometimes those are combined. Sometimes they're separate. You have a chair for special events. You have a chair for decorations. You have a chair for pretty much everything. And you do that so that you can split up the work because it is a lot of work. And, you have to be somebody that is very organized, that enjoys, working with people to try to get the best out of yourself and out of them so you can give your community the best experience possible. I know it sounds cheesy, but it really is true. And it does make my heart hurt. Here's the funny thing, it does hurt my heart. So we were all signed up. We bid and we got selected to put on 2019 in Las Vegas, and that got canceled. Or 2020 in Vegas. Sorry, 2020 in Vegas, and that got canceled because of the pandemic. And then, but prior to that, in 2019, we decided we wanted to do 2021 as well. And people thought we were crazy because you never do conventions back to back. People need like a 3-year break, and I'm like, no, rip off the Band-Aid. We're in that mode now. We're in that, like, I've got this on the brain. I have another convention in me and I have a really fantastic idea for it. Let's do that. So we bid and we got approved for 2021 in Palm Desert, California. But of course, the convention, the pandemic was still happening, so the convention was not. And so that convention got canceled as well. We negotiated with the hotel, and that got moved to 2024, which is this year. And then for sad Barbie politics reasons, it basically was taken away from us. It's just a bummer. You all don't want to hear about that. From my perspective, I would tell you because they were being petty, fire-starting bitches. But from their perspective, I'm sure they would say they were just being fair and trying to make it open to everyone and that we were horrible, awful people. So, and you might know me from this app, but you don't know me in real life. I could be the worst person you've ever met. I don't know. So if you've held in this long, thank you. I was kind of experimenting with a really long form video, even though this isn't what this app is supposed to be about. But I thought, I'm just going to do one, ramble, and we'll see where it goes and how you all respond. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to talk about more of it. I have been to multiple conventions in multiple years, and I got a pretty good idea of it. Oh wait, this is fun. Let's do a quick recap of the years. Well, I can tell you the years that I've gone to. So 2006 was in Century City, which is in Los Angeles. That theme was Lights, Camera, Barbie. It was sort of movie theme, and that was really well done and super fun. There was major, major, major drama surrounding that convention, and that's why all the clubs involved with that one since 2006 had said, no, thank you. We choose never to put ourselves through this again. Uh, it's kind of funny, but it's pretty typical for clubs to break up after hosting a convention. It happens a lot. I didn't go again until 2011 when it was Ken's 50th anniversary and it was in Fort Lauderdale. The theme was spring break. And I told my partner, I said, let's go. You can sit by the beach all day. I'll go do crazy Barbie stuff. We've never taken a real vacation. Let's go do this. It'll be fun. And we went and we had a blast and it was a lot of fun. 2012 was in Garden Grove by Disneyland and we had not planned on going again. It was sort of a once in a lifetime thing, but we're like, it's down the street. It's in Garden Grove. Let's go. So we went to that year. What was the theme that year? It was like a vintage travel sort of theme. Oh God, I'm blanking. Had no plans to go to 2013, but then when it was announced that it was New Orleans, my partner was like, we haven't been to New Orleans. Let's go. And I said, okay, fine. Let's go to New Orleans. Like, don't twist my arm. So we went to New Orleans and I love New Orleans. That was that's a great town. And I'm not even much of a drinker thing, but it was just so much history and personality. Yeah, New Orleans was pretty awesome. What was the theme that year? I don't know, something spooky. 2014, I think, was in Nashville, and it was sort of a Broadway themed, which I thought was fun. 2015 was in Arlington next to DC. Wait, was that the Broadway one? 2016 was Jacksonville, not for me. Jacksonville, sorry. Did not enjoy it. But I was there for Barbie, so I just concentrated on spending time with my friends and hanging out. 2017 was in Houston. It was space themed. God, the theme was just, no bueno. It was not good. And I love space. But I like that convention because I bought the convention doll that year from Mattel and I got to go on a VIP tour of NASA. Totally worth it. So, like, thumbs up. 2018 was in Phoenix on the Avenue, which was sort of a fashion themed convention, was the theme for that one. My partner by that time was on the executive board of the steering committee and there was no host club, so the steering committee had to step in and do it. So the 4 board members, one of which included him, were the ones putting on that convention, and I helped him, and I worked my ass off that convention. Went to Phoenix. I promise you, I think we got there like the Friday before convention and left like the Tuesday after. So imagine Friday, like to Tuesday, 10, 11, 12 days, whatever it was. I did not set foot outside of the hotel until like 11 days later. Like literally never was outside of the hotel once, just because I was working, helping, because it was my partner and I was friends with people on the board and I was a chair, so I was helping them with everywhere that I could, because it really is a lot of work. Besides all the chairs and stuff, which we were talking about before, there are people you can step in and volunteer, and that's a great way to get involved in convention, because they do need people just to be a door checker to make sure everybody coming in has a badge, or people to just watch the competitions to make sure that people don't touch things or mess with things. You can also help decorate. You can help set up centerpieces. You can help in the raffle room. You can help in the competition. There's a lot of different ways to volunteer. And it is a good way to get involved and experience another side of convention. And it is a lot of fun. It can be. But yeah, 2018, we had, and because my partner was one of the convention chairs, the hotel was nice and gave us a whole suite, which was amazing and beautiful. And we did need it because we did have a lot of meetings and things like that. But I promise you, we left that suite at like 7:30 in the morning. And it got back like after midnight every night. I never saw that. It was the nicest we've ever had by far, and never got to use it other than like, the Monday after convention. Because even though the last night is Saturday night and you all go home Sunday, you got to break down, you got to deal with the hotel. So you really, and there's, yeah, it's work. Anyone that's ever put on an event, even a wedding and something like that, knows that it's just, people have no idea what goes into it. 2019 was in Kansas City. That was my last convention. And I was surprised. I had zero desire to go to Kansas City, but it turned out to be a nice city and I did like it a lot. Then of course 2020 and 21 got canceled. 2022 was in Chicago. I did not go for personal reasons. The personal reason being some of the people involved were not nice people. 2023, I think, was in Orlando, and I do not. I'm in California. Florida's just not for me. Sorry on my Florida peeps. I know. It's just not my jam. Everybody says I should just go stick to Miami and lower. Maybe that's what I need to do. And then of course, 2024 is in Palm Desert, which again was the hotel that my group originally found. and negotiated and worked everything out of, and then it was basically taken away. But uh, by pity, fire starting bitches. But at the time, I lived in LA, and I thought, well, that'll be relatively close. Fast forward several years or a few years, and we actually ended up moving here. So now I live like 15 minutes from the hotel, which is great. It'd have been even better for putting it on, but whatever. I'm not bitter at all. Can you tell?